Deal. Let's see if it actually is going to work this time. Are we live? Okay, yeah, it's setting up the meeting. So it just takes a minute, but like I said, let's see if it actually is going to work this time. There we go. I muted it correctly this time. Yay. Hi, Joy.
Hi, how are you?
It's good to see you. I'm okay. I'm a little under the weather. So I'm a little sniffly. So that's just, so don't mind me. But we just power through it, right? As
Yep,
entrepreneurs.
yep. It's going around. I'm waiting for my turn. My son just came back from a little trip with something, so
Whew. Well, of course, living in New York, it is a breeding ground. Like you're kind of, yeah,
yeah.
that's just what it is.
Yeah.
Um, Funny enough, my son just got here for Thanksgiving from New York, very healthy, and now I'm going to make him sick and send him back to New York with germs. But sorry, New Yorkers. Anyway, it's Lynn from Masami and the Conscious Beauty Collective here with Joy from Modern Age Skin. We've had a bunch of conversations in the past, which has always been interesting. I always learn something when I'm talking to Joy, which I love, because we're never too old to learn, people.
100%. I say that all the time. I was like, if you're not trying to learn something from everybody's every single day, you're doing it wrong.
You got to stay curious. And part
Yeah.
of that is that's why I love doing these interviews. That's why I'm doing stuff like live streaming. I think I'm going to do one tomorrow on Palm Street, that new app that I had sent around to
Yeah.
everybody. I
Cool.
think I'm going to do a little Thanksgiving live stream because why not?
Yeah.
Anyhow, we're here to talk about modern age skin. So Joy has a pretty interesting story, I think. And I definitely think it will resonate for a lot of people who are 40-ish and above, especially, which is a lot of our customers, a
Mm.
lot of audience, frankly. Um, so why don't you just tell us a little bit more about what inspired you to start the brand? Because first of all, for anyone watching, starting a brand is super, super hard. Everyone makes it sound like, oh, it's so easy. You can just go on and just create an account and set it up and do your LLC with InkFile and just set up an Instagram account and you're up and running. Okay,
Yeah.
it's not that easy. It's really hard. So the point of why I'm saying that is if you have an idea, you got to be so committed to it to actually want to make it into a product. And that's why I think Joy's story is really interesting.
Yeah,
So
I was not, I definitely don't subscribe to this if you build it, they will come kind of mentality.
yeah,
The
no.
starting, I mean, so many people think that, and you hear that story over and over again that you're being fed that, which is it's just it's a load of
It
hooey,
is an
frankly.
absolute lie.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, it actually took a lot of convincing for me to start this business. I was very interested in the space, right? The menopause and perimenopause market, because I was going through that. And just to kind of go back to the beginning, I went into perimenopause at 38 and I didn't know that. I just felt like I was physically
Why
falling
would
apart.
you know that? I mean, that's crazy. Like, but it's not crazy.
It's
It sounds
not crazy,
like
actually. It's not
yeah,
an unusual time. People think it is. Like I even get that from healthcare providers. They're like, "Oh, that's so young." I was like, "It's not young
yeah,
because
it's actually
the,
not that crazy.
no, the average age of menopause is 52 in the United States. It varies around the world, but it's 52 in the United States, and you can go into perimenopause 10 years before that. So it can last for 10 years. So if it's
That
an
is
average
great.
of 52, you could be as young as 42, as old as 62 to hit that average. So if you're 52, you could be 42. But you still have those 10 years in between that you could have gone into menopause between 42 and 52 and it not being outside the realm of possibility. So you could be really as young as 32 in perimenopause.
Well, that's the thing because it's averages. There's always
Yeah,
people at ends.
right,
And
right.
I was actually on the other end, by the way, which I was 50. How old am I now? Huh. I'm 57. It's 2024. In 2021, I was still not in menopause and I was 54 years old.
Yeah,
And my OBGYN kept saying, any day now, any day now. And she's giving me Depo-Provera shots, which is awful.
yeah.
So
I mean,
anyway, the point being like I guess what I'm just trying to say is everyone's different and there
It's a
is no
massive range, and it's a space that
massive range.
nobody knows anything about it. At least it feels like people don't know anything about it, right? I mean, it's just, you go to your doctor and you tell them all these things. And to answer your question, when did I know that I had gone into perimenopause at 38? When I was actually through, when I went through menopause. Then I was like,
And you're
wait,
like, oh, that's
that's
what
when
was going on.
yeah, that's when I started getting all the information and becoming a more informed consumer, if you will, and kind of working through this process with the brand. So I didn't know that that's what was happening to me. I wasn't sleeping. I had brain fog. I was up for like hours in the middle of the night. Night sweats were a little bit, not, they got worse later on. All these things, I'm like, what's wrong with me? I'm falling apart. And I go to doctors and they're like, we don't know. We think you're fine. Finally went to like a functional practitioner who still never told me it was perimenopause because, now that I've done the research on this and going through this development of this brand, it was honestly the information that I got. Sorry, now my dog is going to come visit. He's
Oh,
going to
no
make
worries.
an appearance on the screen. I found out that doctors, even, and that was a functional practitioner, GP kind of person. But gynecologists and obstetricians get like 1 hour of menopause education when they go through medical school.
Insane, because
Yeah.
that is like the first line of defense. Like that's who I went to
Yeah.
when I was having issues because I was having not this is a little TMI maybe for YouTube, but like a lot of excessive bleeding and
Yeah.
unexplained. And she kept doing these biopsies, which by the way are really painful if you've
Yeah,
ever
I've had that too. And it was completely unnecessary, by the way, for me.
unnecessary. Well,
Yeah.
it was for me too, because had she realized that that was just happens to a number of women that go through perimenopause, like she just didn't put
Yep.
it together.
Yeah, I mean, and that was for me when it was really just like, I can't do this anymore. I was getting my period every 2 weeks.
Yeah, that's
A
crazy.
while, like people think that it starts to stretch out and it gets longer in between your periods, but for some people it does get less, right? So I'm like, oh, this sucks.
Yep.
Like I didn't like having I mean, who loves getting their period anyway? And then they have it every 2 weeks. You're like,
Oh
oh,
my
that's
God.
fake. Yeah. So yeah, just
But the
doing
thing,
all of that research, like getting the research as I got. So no one ever said perimenopause to me. Never. No one still ever said perimenopause to me until I had already gone through menopause and finally found the right doctor to help me with all of my symptoms. Yeah, that's what she does. That's all she does.
but you had to know to go to her to find that out. And
Mhm.
most of us don't because we go to our GP or our OBGYN.
Mhm.
And that's a whole thing. I mean, my OBGYN could have easily killed me because she told me my breast cancer was a lump from the COVID vaccine. So
Awesome.
like,
Yeah.
yeah. And my husband often says, and I agree with it, there are a lot of C students that are doctors, you know? I mean,
Yeah. I mean, there are some
you know,
brilliant doctors out there, but just because you're a doctor does not mean you're brilliant, right?
correct.
So,
Okay, but let's talk about how this perimenopause and menopause actually affected your skin, because that's one of those symptoms that people don't always talk about,
yeah.
but it is there. And I noticed too, I was starting to get some, just like teenage acne almost. And
Yeah.
it's
That's the worst, right? And so I didn't have great skin when I was growing up. I'm looking back at it. I clearly always had some pretty significant hormonal shifts in my body going on because I had cystic acne when I was a kid or a teenager. But when I went into perimenopause, that came back with a vengeance, right? Because your hormones are like all over the place, like day after day. It could be completely different. And
yeah.
so I was getting acne again. And I was like, oh my God, come on. Now I'm in my late 30s and early 40s. Do I really want to go through this again? This stinks, right? So I really just stripped down my skincare routine and kind of started from basics and doing a lot of, a DIY kind of thing, doing lots of research. And I have a graduate degree in library science. And so I tend to be a very research intensive kind of person.
Very useful, by the way.
It's super useful.
Yeah, very useful.
I had a bunch of people in my library school class. Like some of them had PhDs. We were all over, like looked so different. I was young. I was like 22, and everybody else was from between there and 60s. It was really interesting. People will come back and get their MLS degree, and so Several PhDs said, "Oh my God, I wish I would have done this before I got my PhD. It would have made my research 1,000 times easier," which is really interesting. Anyway, I did lots of research on the kinds of how could I be a bit more gentle and natural, but still achieve what I want to achieve. And because I was going through all of these other issues as well, and even digestive problems, and I mean, I was a bit of a disaster. I just stripped my entire routine down with everything. So what I was eating, I did subsequently find out that I have a gluten intolerance during that process with my functional practitioner that I went to. And I was just super cortisol off the charts, which is why I was up in the middle of the night for like 2 or 3 hours at a time. So I was just like, all right, let's just strip it all down, skincare, body, everything. So I rejiggered my diet, went back to doing a lot of yoga, trying to like let go of the stress to get the cortisol down. That helps with both, skin health
Yep.
and gut health and everything, right? Mental health. But the skin stuff, the acne, it did get better with what I was sort of coming up with on my own in my kitchen. Um, and I know it has to do with all of those things in conjunction with one another, but it did really significantly help with the acne. I was having a little bit of dryness and kind of crepey looking skin that starts to creep in for you. Yeah, I know. It's super fun, right? And then the
I woke up and I was
hyperpigmentation.
like, where the hell did this turkey neck come
I know,
from?
right? I
Didn't used
know.
to have this.
Oh yeah, I have it. I mean, I'm wearing a turtleneck for a reason
It's
sometimes.
super annoying. Now I'm showing everyone. Here it is.
So,
But
so I tried to like find the things that would solve those. And I grew up in the South, so I lived in Florida for the vast majority of my childhood, like from 9 till I went to college. And even then I was still in the South after college. So lots of spots. I played soccer, which is a year-round sport in Florida. So lots of spots on my skin. So just trying to help alleviate those issues was what I was going for all at the same time. But the big thing for me was the acne, because who wants acne when they're 40s?
Mm.
So I did go back. I went after a while. We moved to New York then. We were in Texas at that point. Moved to New York during COVID, was a little bored, if you will. And I also had a bunch of friends who kept asking me, they're like, your skin looks really great. What do you use? And I would give them samples. And so I kind of decided that I really didn't want to do something terrible to somebody's skin. So it would be a good idea to go back and get my certificate in skincare formulation, which is what I did. And then I got a bit more proper and structured about the way I was going through creating things and not doing things that was going to damage somebody's skin, and being very conscious of allergens as well, which is what I really learned going through that program, is that the allergens can really set you off, particularly as you're getting older and your skin is changing so much. People get more sensitive to things. So that's kind of been my mantra, is to solve the problems, but do it in the most gentle, kind to your skin way. Otherwise, I mean, you're just going to make it worse. I know that we definitely made it worse than all that stripping and scrubbing that we did in the 80s to try to get rid of the acne. I'm convinced if I did a better job of nurturing and moisturizing my skin through that process, it probably wouldn't be as dry as it is today. It would have been like,
That's an interesting insight, actually, because look at what's happening today with all these like young 12-year-olds, 8-year-olds, 10-year-olds going into Sephora and getting retinols and
I
getting,
mean, it's
right? Like,
crazy. I can't use retinol. It makes my skin super dry. It gets
yeah.
cracked and starts peeling. It's a mess. So I don't use it. Unfortunately, I mean, for me, I find alternatives to that in my formulations, which is fine. But yeah, I mean, these little kids using retinol, for God's sake, they don't need that.
So you kind of think what is going to happen to their skin? What is that going to look like in 10 years, 20 years, 30 years? What kind of issues are they going to have? We don't even know. I mean,
No idea. I know it's rough. I
it
mean,
feels a little bit like the Wild West some days working in beauty because it
it,
just,
it totally does in the States. The structure is finally getting there, but
yeah,
it's not ideal to say the least.
not ideal. It's really frustrating. Okay, so you decided you're going to make something really because of your own issues.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's probably fair for most entrepreneurs, right? Then the same
Yeah,
thing kind of
I
happened to
think
you. I want better results from my hair, so let's focus on that and see what I can do to fix my own problem. And then you realize there's a host of people out there that may have the same problem that you have.
But I think the brilliant thing of that is like, it's so relatable, right? Because like what you're describing is most women our age. I mean, and I think it's also an uncovered, untalked about, I don't know what you want to call it. Like it's not a mark, it's a little bit of a white space market because you know, skincare is crazy. Like so anybody watching, like there are loads and loads and loads of skincare products that launch every year, like thousands. Like it's a very competitive category. So the key is you got to find your differentiation. And I do think that focusing on this issue is giving you a little bit of you know, a North Star, if you will.
Yeah, I mean, I like to, I hope so, right? That's kind of why you do it, really. I mean, and that's why I was so resistant at like jumping into the beauty space at all was, I mean, it's such a flooded market. But then once I did enough research to realize that this is such a massive market and very few brands are addressing it. And I think even fewer brands are addressing it the way that I am. I was super angry after going through the same sort of process that you're talking about, like an unnecessary surgery, a suggestion that I should get a hysterectomy, right?
Oh God.
Yeah, that was awesome. I was
Oh my God.
cool. I almost hung up on the doctor because that was a conversation. I was really pissed off about it. That's when I realized that I'm like, I was really angry about all of that. And that 15 years of nonsense before I finally found a doctor who could explain it to me in a way that was tangible and helpful. And I'm in such a better place now. I cried when I found her. It was nuts. I was so
You want
upset.
to share who it is? Is it a New York City doctor?
She is a New York City doctor, but she has an online platform. Her name's Heather Hirsch. And she's easy to find. Like she's great on Instagram and YouTube, and she does stuff all the
Oh,
time. Like
cool.
she's on the TV, you'll see her. She and Mary Claire Haver, she's in Houston. She would have been my doctor if I still lived in Houston. But I found Heather, she's amazing. She kind of explains, she's like, she's so nurturing and supportive. And this is all she does is this space, and she has a book, and she's got like an online platform that she uses for like executive education, right? So she has a whole class, that master class that you can take on all of this. And she's been unbelievable. It was really, really helpful. But there aren't enough people like that out there that are
No, there
waving
aren't.
a flag. And so that's kind of where I was coming from. And she's a little bit younger than me, so she hasn't quite gone through. She's just feeling that she's starting to get into perimenopause now. So for me, it's just if I can prevent anybody from going through the stuff that I went through, I will consider this business a success. That will make me happy.
Yeah, I agree. But isn't it fascinating that so many doctors, right, who are our age, have dealt with this personally? Like
Mm-hmm.
they've gone through it and they still are in denial or they still are misinformed. And
Yeah.
so it's kind of like it's a head scratcher a little bit because they've got personal experience and yet they still seem to buy into this narrative that it's just there's other, you know, I don't know, you know, you're not supposed to talk about this stuff or,
Yeah.
you know, women are just whiners or whatever it is.
Oh,
I
it's
don't
a
know.
part of life. Just get over it.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. Like
right.
what?
If a man turned up to their doctor complaining of all the stuff that we go through during perimenopause and menopause, they'd get all the attention in the world, right?
Yep. Oh, 100%. They'd have full body scans and all
Mhm.
sorts, you know, everything out there. Fascinating. All right, but let's talk specifically about your brand and your line. So you
Yeah.
started with one product, which is really an all-in-one, multitasking, does a lot, kind of you call it the innovator.
The Innovator, yeah, it's a facial oil that has some actives in it, which is a little bit different. Most facial oils are usually, I mean, look, carrier oils and bulk oils are amazing, and they've got some unbelievable things that they can do for your skin and your body, and even just your mental well-being. Just the scent of them makes you feel good.
Yep.
But finding the actives that really are effective, but still naturally based was tough, but I found a couple of them to put in the Innovator, and one of them is our Alpine Rose extract, which is a high altitude Alpine rose, which is a rhododendron, basically. If you're
Oh,
a
okay.
gardener, it is a rhododendron
How
family.
did you find it? That's
I
that
just it's
about it.
research, right? Like
Oh,
that's what I did tons of research. And when you're a little tiny indie brand and you're a formulator still trying to figure it out and putting things together, getting the attention of potential suppliers is very difficult. And that particular supplier, they're called Mibel Biochemistry. They're based out of Switzerland, but they've got like most of them have big offices here in New Jersey.
yeah.
Not big, they're not a huge company, but decent size. And I mean, the woman who runs that office is amazing. She's super helpful. Even when I was just a formulator, didn't have a company at all yet or anything, she's super
Mhm.
nice. And I still use them for other things. There's another ingredient that I have in the new product that's out too that I get from them. I've had lunch with their CEO. I mean, they're very open and they're very thankful because I wave their flag all the time. I put them on Instagram and say, this is such a great, incredible
Yeah,
active.
here you are talking about them. And that's interesting too, because in our industry, people don't like to share their partners, formulators, ingredient
Yeah.
suppliers, because it's a little bit of like, oh no, that's my little IP, secret sauce. I don't want to share that. So it's kind of cool that you're willing to talk about it and give them some love.
Yeah. I mean, they've been so good to me and they've been really helpful and frankly, their stuff is just amazing. I mean, it's really good. That particular ingredient works on the basis of senescence, which is you've got lots of cells in your body. Some of them are just kind of floating around, taking up space and not really functioning the way they should. They're not dead. They're called zombie cells, like the lay person kind
Yep.
of. So they just sort of sit there. And I sort of explain it to people as if you look at that tree you have outside and you have that one limb that doesn't really have any leaves on it, just languishing there, but it's not falling off. But it is taking resources from the rest of the tree. That's what these cells are doing. So it helps clear those. And it really does work. Like I had in growing up in Florida and being outside all the time and not using sunscreen the way we do now, I had almost this permanent flush on my neck, on either side of my neck. And even my esthetician is like, oh my God, it's practically gone. It's probably 85, 90% better.
Wow. And how long did you have that?
Oh God, probably, I mean, since I was a teenager, really. I mean, it
Years?
was like just getting too much sun and then it just never went away. You got into like your 20s and 30s and you're like, this is terrible.
But like that's fascinating because something that you've had for literally like 20
Half
years
my
that
life, pretty much,
yeah.
almost. Yeah.
And again, we grew up in an era where I remember my skin is very pasty pale and I burn easy and my friends would have this beautiful golden bronze tan and I'd be slathering the baby oil
Mm-hmm. Deep
try to
frying yourself.
Oh my God, like the stuff that we did to our skin is shocking.
Yes.
So now, of course, at least with my daughter, I'm like, oh my God, sunscreen, skincare, like start doing it right and don't do don't make those mistakes.
Yeah. Yeah. So that oil, I love it. I use it all. I use it everywhere, actually. I always have used it everywhere. It's really nice. It's all dry oils. It soaks in very quickly, so you never feel greasy. If you do have oily skin, this is high in linoleic acid. That's what makes it a dry oil, if you will. That's the same, almost very similar chemical makeup as the oil that your skin naturally produces. So when you're oily skinned, your skin is overproducing. It's trying to overcompensate for something. This will give it the nutrients that it needs to tell it to stop producing so much oil. So it will be protecting your skin barrier.
Interesting.
So it's nice. The people who are like, I have oily skin, I can't use a facial oil. I'm like, just try this. And
Yeah,
like,
you're like,
oh
you
my God,
can.
I can use this and it works really well and it doesn't make my skin is actually less oily on a daily basis than it was before.
A lot of people have that misperception that face oils are greasy, and if you have skin that's, you know, not dry but more combination skin, that it's going to really irritate and bring out blemishes. But I've started using face oil in the last couple years, and I think it's fantastic because it really does, like my skin just soaks it up, and I
Yeah.
agree, like the right ones makes such a difference. And I love that you use it like all over because from what it sounds like, it's got a lot of healing properties. If it really helped your skin on your neck, like why couldn't you use it almost on any part of your body that you've got like compromised? Have you thought about making a body oil?
Um, I have. I haven't. This is a very
I
slow
know.
burn for me.
Yeah,
I'm trying. I mean, I would love if I had a giant bucket of money somewhere, I would just launch. I mean, I have five.
trust me, I hear
I've
you.
got two products on the market now, but I've got five ready to go. Like, right, they're good. I just don't want to spend them. I want to do this slowly and really get good
Yeah.
market penetration and really build that tribe first before I don't want to get out over my
You know
skis.
what? I think that's the way to do it. I have a very small line too. And I've added accessories onto my line since I launched, but I haven't added any other formulas
Yeah.
because what people also don't fully understand is every time you do a new formula, it's like $50,000 to get
Yeah,
everything.
it's
It's
a lot.
expensive. And then, you know, as a brand owner, you're basically fronting that money,
Yeah.
hoping to sell through that inventory, which can take a while. And so the cash flow becomes a problem. So if you've got lots of products, it's, you know, multiply the 50,000 per product and it starts to get, you know,
And
unwieldy.
honestly, do you really need like, I mean, I'm kind of a simplistic
Yeah,
person
you don't.
when it comes to my skincare, right? I don't need 20 steps. I don't have the time or the patience for that anyway, to be totally honest with you. But
It's expensive too.
it's just unnecessary. It's
Yeah,
totally unnecessary.
I agree. I'm all about simplicity. I just started using a toner in the last couple of years. I have added that step, which I
Yeah.
like.
It's really nice. That
It's,
initial layer, that's one of the things that I like because I use a toner too. And that initial moisturization, like light moisturization that you then seal in with something else is really nice. As you get older, that it really holds that moisture
it
in all day
does.
as opposed to just a little bit.
But that was like an add to my routine. And to your point, I'm usually trying to take away, like not
Yeah.
add more stuff.
Yeah.
So let's talk about your second product because that's pretty
Yeah.
new.
Yeah, I just launched that. It's right at a month, I guess. It was the 18th. So which is October is Menopause Awareness Month, and October 18th is International Menopause Awareness Day. And so that's the target date that I had
Oh,
laid out for it. And so we did launch it on the 18th. It was, a push, as you are all too familiar with, trying to make things happen and doing everything you can to to make it happen on a deadline that you have set
what
for yourself.
exactly? Tell us more about what it does, what it is.
Yeah, so this one, it is an overnight exfoliating serum, but it has a ceramide complex in it as well, and a bunch of very low molecular weight hyaluronic acid. So
Okay.
that's what you want to concentrate on, by the way. If you do like hyaluronic acid, use multiple weights of hyaluronic acid if you want, or low molecular weight. It looks like water when you hydrate, because hyaluronic acid comes in a powder form and you hydrate it in distilled water.
Oh,
It still seems like water when you do a low molecular weight
but
hyaluronic
most
acid, and that
formulations,
soaks in really nicely.
like
They
you
don't
don't
tell you.
know. No, you have no idea. And that's interesting too, is not all hyaluronic acids are equal. I've learned that. Like there's some
No.
that are bigger molecules, sit on top, don't
Yeah.
soak in,
That
don't.
that high molecular weight is what kind of almost makes a film on your skin, which is
Yeah,
fine too. If you've got a lower weight underneath that, that'll soak in and that'll kind of hold it in a bit. I just prefer the low molecular weight instead, just because it does soak in really nicely, and you can use other things that are a bit more occlusive on top of that, like the ceramide complex. It's got multiple
yeah.
types of ceramides in it, but then it has a very nice buffered lactic and glycolic acid complex. So that means that it's not, you put it on, it's never going to sting. It's never going to make you peel. It is a very slow exfoliation process. And for me, that's my preference. I don't want to look all peeled unless I'm aggressively going after a laser kind of thing, then that's different,
Right.
right? But if I want something every night, because I put this on at night, I don't want to wake up all flaky, or
No.
2 weeks
Or
from now wake
red,
up all flaky or
like
red. Yeah.
yeah, you don't want that irritation or that, yeah. I
Yeah.
agree with you. And especially as you get older, it's like you have to be both gentle but effective. And
Yeah.
yeah.
And
But it
that's
is
why I'm really fussy about that too. I keep telling everybody, I was like, please use a nice, gentle chemical exfoliator as you get older. Scrubbing your skin as it gets thinner will leave little tiny fissures in your skin as you scrub. It's not a good idea.
that's true. I hadn't even really thought of that
Yeah.
actually.
So
Well,
chemical exfoliant, if you can find a nice soft one, like a gentle one, this is very gentle. If you can find something like that to use, that's much better off. I know it's slow and we're such an instantaneous type of culture in the United States, but it's just better. It's healthier for your skin. In the long run, you'll look a lot better. You'll feel a lot better. You'll be very satisfied when you finally get to that point. You're like, oh yeah, this is much better than scrubbing the crap out of my skin every day.
yeah. And I think back to, oh my God, things that I used when I was younger, St. Ives apricot scrub.
I always bring that one up with
Oh
everybody. I was
my
like,
God.
remember that?
I actually worked on that in the advertising
Oh
world,
yeah.
believe it or not, and found out that that's actually crushed walnut.
Yeah, it's crushed walnut shell, so it's super
Or
scratchy.
abrasive. It's like
Yeah.
little sharp, jagged edges. And
Yeah.
I'm like shocked by that. That was, and then the other one that I worked on that I'm also a little bit horrified by is Noxema because it's super toxic.
Mhm. Yeah.
The stuff in there. And so, but again, like you're young, you don't know any better. But now, okay, this is the other benefit of you targeting older, educated consumers is that hopefully they are a bit more aware of all those things and what they're putting in and on their bodies and looking for things more like what you're offering, as
Mhm.
opposed to, consumers that are kind of not really in that mindset.
Yeah.
So hopefully that's it.
Hopefully. I mean, that's who I'm shooting for, really, the more educated consumer or the more willing to be educated consumer. Like they're looking for an answer
Yeah.
to their problems that isn't a band-aid that'll just solve all your problems right away, right? That it's something that, you're gonna work through this. It took you how long to get here? It's not
Oh my
gonna
God.
solve itself by tomorrow. And if you think that's true, then you're just fooling yourself.
So we could probably talk forever
I know.
because it's so fascinating, but okay, we will wrap it up. But I would love to kind of go back to where we started a little bit with if somebody is menopausal, dealing with some of these skin issues, what are the steps that you would recommend that they take to try to kind of get to the root of it?
Yeah, I mean, really going to a really good doctor to kind of work through it, doing your research and learning more about what's going on with your body, obviously, but your skin in particular, if that's what you're looking to solve. And then your personal skin type. I mean, this is a trial and error, and as many people are out there, there's that many different kinds of skin. So you really have to find what's going to work best for you. For me, it was finding something very simple that would clear the acne that I had, but was also giving me moisture. Right. I
Yeah,
needed, then those two things are very difficult to find together. You tend to find moisture or acne. One dries it out. The other one gives you too much moisture and possibly could be so thick and occlusive that it makes you break out. Right. That's what happened to me. Like everybody's La Mer is so great. It's supposed to heal everything. I use it, it made my skin break out. So
yeah.
rid of that a long time ago. So just being patient with yourself, trying things, and just be kind to your skin. Don't do anything super aggressive, and don't change everything all at once because your skin is going to react. You do
That's
get more
really,
sensitive as you get older, right?
yeah, super important and good advice. I always say to people like, if you're going to try to change out your skincare routine or you want to go to like a clean routine and you're not using clean products, change one thing at a time
Yep.
every month. Like let it give it a few weeks to work. And then if you like it and it's working, then move on to the next product because you're right. Like otherwise you try to change everything out. You don't know which thing is
Right.
doing what,
If you've ever had a food allergy and you don't know what it is, that's what the doctor tells you to do. It's like you get rid of everything and you do one thing at a time. Just
Yeah,
one. Otherwise, that's exactly what happens. You don't know when things are conflicting. It could be multiple things. You just have no idea.
I have no idea. Well, this has been lovely. Thank you. And of course, I always learn something, which is great. And am I going to see you next week? Are you going to be at the event?
I will be at the event at Clara
Okay.
Beauty Lab on the Upper
That
East.
is on the 5th,
On the
December
5th.
5th. I think it's from 5 to 7, I think. Um, but I will put the link in the YouTube video description so that if
Yeah,
people are watching and they want to come and check it out and you're in New York,
yeah.
come by, ask Joy your questions about your skin issues.
Come. We love to meet people like this, right? Like these openings that we've done, I've had the chance to meet really interesting people and you know, I'm super open to that. I mean, I email people directly too, like when they come through on my website, they send things, I email it back and they can't believe
Yeah,
it's me. But I love that. I like talking to the people that are using our products. It's
yeah, me
exciting,
too.
that
And
feedback.
it's so great to have that connection. And that's why I love doing these pop-ins we're doing, because you're really getting that one-on-one with the consumer
Yeah.
and getting that feedback, which is it's you just don't get that in the digital world. It's as much as you try.
Yeah. Yeah. You're right.
Okay, well, and where else can people find you?
So on my website at modernageskin.com, you sell there. I know that we're on with the Conscious Beauty Collective as well, right?
Yep,
On your website.
yep,
Um,
yep.
and then in the shops, like we're in Miami, right? At the Adora Therapy. Go to Adora Therapy if you're in Miami or
Yes,
visiting Miami. It's a super cool store. And
it is good.
Wynwood is a super cool neighborhood. It's very fun. And there's lots of shopping to be done there too, which is kind of fun.
Yes,
So go
it's a little
there.
dangerous, but it's
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, it's fine. It's not too bad.
I
I've
mean, dangerous from the shopping perspective.
yeah.
A lot of stuff. I go to Wynwood and I'm like, ooh, that looks interesting. Ooh,
Yeah.
that's fun. But
And
yeah,
nice
you're
little restaurants and coffee shops and everything. So there's lots of cool
right.
stuff down there. Yeah.
Agree. No, that's perfect. All right. Well, I will put that also in the description of kind of where you are. And yeah, so anyone listening, you have questions, just hit up Joy. But yeah, thanks for joining.
Thank
And
you.
I'll
This is
see you
fun.
next week.
Yeah, it'll be good to see you in person again.
Okay. And hopefully I will be totally healthy by then.
Yes. Good luck. I hope so.
Oh,